What's going on, Fortnite fans? My name is Luke-thenotable, and in this video, we'll be finding out what happened after I dropped Salty Springs 100 times. I wanted to learn a little bit more about Fortnite and maybe increase my skill along the way, and I thought one of the best ways to do that was to main a location like Salty Springs. So I dropped into Salty Springs 100 times, cataloged what happened, and this video is going to be going over those events. And yes, I do play Fortnite on console, don't make fun of me for it, I'm sort of sensitive. And before we start this video, it's sort of sad that I have to address this, but all of this is legit. This isn't clickbait, and I actually did drop Salty Springs 100 times. I have just about 200 gigabytes of Fortnite footage of me just dropping Salty Springs. I feel like now I know Salty like the back of my hand, and now it's time to give that information to you. So without further ado, I dropped Salty Springs 100 times, and this is what happened. This is my normal intro, and it normally has Halo music, but this is a Fortnite video. I guess this will be a good time to further explain why I wanted to do this video in the first place, because anyone I told that I was dropping Salty Springs 100 times, they all gave me this look like, dude, why? Salty Springs is cool and all, but why would you ever want to drop somewhere 100 times? You definitely don't need to drop somewhere 100 times to understand how good that place is. I wanted to get good at Fortnite, and I thought one of the best ways to do that was to learn a specific location like the back of my hand. If I could drop into a location and know everything about that location, namely where all the chests and ammo boxes spawn, then I might have a better chance of doing well in Fortnite. But I did take it one step further. One of the things that intrigued me specifically about Salty Springs is the fact that it's in the middle of the map. And to know why this is significant, I do have to sort of explain Fortnite a little bit here. Again, I just want to give the full picture to anyone that hasn't played Fortnite before. Yes, it's insanely popular, but there are still people that haven't played it. In Fortnite Battle Royale, 100 players drop from the sky with nothing but a pickaxe. Players are tasked with finding weapons and eliminating their fellow opponents. The battlefield will constantly shrink by way of a massive circular storm. If you are inside the storm, you will take damage over time and eventually die. So it can be a huge advantage to get inside the storm easily and safely, and I thought Salty Springs would be a good way to do that. I recorded tons of data about Salty Springs, my own KD, how often I was in the first circle, and how many chests came out of each of the houses that I dropped in. I'll be sharing all of that data throughout this video, don't worry. Now this is based off Salty Springs being in the middle of the map, and you won't always have the best circle, but you will be in the circle most of the time. And when you're dropping Salty Springs, it's also important to note that even if you're not technically in the circle, meaning the circle's sort of away from Salty Springs, it's always fairly close, at least the first one. So tactically, at least for the end game, dropping Salty Springs can give you an advantage over other players in the match. But because it's in the middle, there's gonna be a fight. Not there might be a fight, no, there is going to be a fight. If you're gonna drop Salty Springs, be ready to kill some people, because it gets heavy. And if you're not ready for the heat, just default dance your way down to Fatal Fields, you noob. But this is a perfect time to start talking about when I was a noob, at least a noob in Salty Springs. Now I'm bringing you all to game number 1. My first drop in Salty Springs, I guess I really didn't know what to expect. I had dropped there before, sure, but never competitively. I never thought specifically about how to drop into Salty Springs. In hindsight, my first drop was probably not a great one. As you can tell, the battle bus goes right over Salty Springs, and that's always when you're gonna have a ton of people dropping in. It's gonna be a firefight. I dropped into the North Brick House. You'll see a lot of people drop here because it's a big brick house and people think that there's gonna be a lot of loot inside. You'll find out later that this isn't the best house to drop into, but keep in mind that someone will always drop here if you're not there first. I got some decent loot out of the brick house, nothing too great, but all you really need at Salty Springs is something that can kill the enemy. Remember, a lot of people are gonna drop here and they're gonna get a lot of the loot too, so if you can come out on top from Salty Springs, you'll be packing. I looted the house that I dropped into, and instead of exploring Salty, I decided just to run north. I saw this noob guy just running around with the default skin. I got him real low on health, but then he started to build up on me, and that was ultimately my downfall. Remember, I was dropping Salty Springs 100 times to not only learn Salty Springs, but also to get good at the game in general. Game 2, I dropped in on the same house that I dropped in Game 1 because I thought, hey, the loot wasn't that bad. Sure, I got nutted on by a noob, but hey, maybe I learned from my mistakes. I had a small confrontation with a Rust Lord that had no weapon, and yes, I gave him the sweet mercy of death. I also killed this guy who probably should have killed me in all honesty. He had a shotgun, I didn't. He was just more newbie than I was. This time I decided to explore Salty Springs just a little bit more, look for some more loot and the chests that were hidden around Salty Springs. Right now I'm in the gas station, which can be a pretty good place to go if you have nowhere else to drop in Salty Springs, but be very careful as you're in the middle of the map with not much cover. I continued my slaughter of Salty Springs, taking down a John Wick. Ooh. And if you get good at Salty Springs, this is the sort of loot that you can expect. There's going to be a lot of houses that people are going to go through, and if you can kill everyone clearing out all of Salty Springs, your loot will look pretty good. Sure, there's skill in Fortnite, but having a good shotgun helps quite a bit. After getting a ton of kills, not really knowing what my next move was going to be, I built up in Salty Springs because the circle was still upon me. Every now and then you'd have a guy pop shots at you with a crossbow or sniper rifle, but my loot was good enough that most of the time I just scared him off anyway. Honestly, I don't think Salty's too bad of a place to build up in, especially if the circle is in a nice location like it was for me here. I was able to funnel people in and kill them fairly easily. Ultimately, what my downfall was being quite a bit cocky. Now, I did have 6 kills at the time, and killing this John Wick with a nice headshot made it 7, but I kind of thought in my head that no one was going to even try to kill me because I had such good loot, and I was in a safe location, I was going to be totally fine. And this is more of a general tip, not necessarily a tip specifically for Salty Springs, but don't ever assume that you're safe, because it's probably likely that you're not, especially if you drop into somewhere like Salty Springs, which is a named location. There's going to be lots of traffic, and that's why I died. Alright, now it's time for game 3. I dropped into the same house that I dropped into before, got some decent loot, and went on to go kill. This is pretty much how I dropped into Salty Springs from here on out. Of course, the house has changed throughout these 100 games, but at the start, the North Brick house was my go-to. It was all I knew, okay? This guy in the small house tried to be slick on me with these remote explosives, but I put an end to him. And then I did more damage to this guy than I've probably ever done to a single target with a burst rifle. Have I said that Salty Springs is about killing? Because it definitely is. But this is one of those games where Salty Springs isn't in the first circle, which means I have to keep moving. I have to loot as fast as possible, get all of the stuff in Salty Springs, and then move towards the circle. And I don't care how good you are or how high you can build over your opponent. At the end of the day, if you have to run too far into the circle, it's going to be very difficult for you to get the win. You're constantly going to be fighting people, and eventually someone will get a lucky headshot. Or in my case, you'll be stuck on 10 health and some noob with no skin will kill you. I think game 4 is just another testament to how good Salty Springs can be to you. If you drop Salty Springs and you're decent at slaying, you can leave with some pretty good loot, and probably you'll make it to the end game. Game 4, I made it out of Salty Springs with a lot of messy kills, but also a lot of pretty decent loot. I not only had a sniper, but also a heavy shotgun and a purple rocket launcher, which means I was probably going to have at least a decent chance of winning. Salty Springs can set you up with some pretty decent loot, but you still have to be good to get the win. It's not handed to you by any means. Remember, this is only game 4, but I basically let this guy build right over the top of me, and I didn't do anything to stop him. It was an easy kill for him. And I think we've come to our first real problem here. You see, I only just got done with explaining game number 4, and there are literally 96 more games that I have to get through. Alright, well technically I lost the footage for game number 5 and 65. I must have not hit record, and that's why you're seeing game number 6 right now. But I think if we pick up the pace, we can get through the rest of them. I think you guys already have grasped the idea of Salty Springs. It is a good place to go for some decent loot if you can kill some other people. It's also a great place to go if you want to get one-ticked by a guy with a heavy shotgun. Game 7 started fairly explosively. I got this John Wick down to very low health with my SMGs. I had very little loot this game. There were no chests in the brick house. But then this noob shows up with his tac shotgun. Probably should have killed me, but with my jumping, I came out on top. I just realized I called this guy John Wick when he is clearly not. Oh well, I acknowledged it, so you can't crucify me for it. In the end, I died quite tragically by a guy who was just clearly better. Game 8 was the first game that I dropped into the crack house. Now that's that big dilapidated house in the southern portion of the map that I'm about to drop into right now. You can't miss it, it has a massive tree in its roof. This ended up being the house that I dropped to in Salty Springs the most in this series. For one, not a lot of people drop here, I think, just because the house looks a little bit dilapidated, and from the sky it looks fairly small. There's also a chance that this house will spawn 3 chests, one in each attic and one in the basement. This makes the crack house the only house in Salty Springs that will spawn 3 chests. Every time I dropped into a house, I recorded how many chests that house produced. Sometimes a house like the crack house would give me 3 chests. Sometimes it wouldn't give me any. Actually, I lied. I dropped the crack house 50 times and not a single time did it have no chests in it. On average, the crack house is going to give you about 1.85 chests every time you drop it. You're almost always going to get at least 1, and it's pretty likely that you'll get 2. It's very rare that you'll get 3, but it could happen. Compare these numbers to that of the brick house, the house that I first dropped into in games 1 through 4. First off, that house doesn't have any chance of spawning 3 chests, so even on a good day, you're only going to get 2. And on average, it only gave me 1.13 chests every time I dropped it. So on average, you're probably going to get 1 if you drop in the brick house, but there's a good chance that you're going to get none and not a very high chance that you'll get 2. At the end of the day, what this means is that if you're dropping into Salty Springs, the best house to drop into is the crack house. Don't tell your friends though, because it'll change the meta. I did the math, and while the other houses in Salty Salty Springs are fine, none of them come close to the crack house. Now I know I'm jumping ahead a bit here, but this is actually from game 77, and it shows a pretty useful strategy you can use in the crack house to defend it. In this situation, someone's underneath me, which can happen, especially if someone doesn't get a good drop. In this second attic, you sometimes will find a chest, but there's also a hole you can drop down and kill people on the first floor. They almost never expect it. Just one of the many reasons why this house should always be your first choice when you're dropping into Salty Springs. You won't always get to drop into this house, but if you can, take the opportunity, because it gives you the most chests on average and is pretty easily defendable. And remember, you're going to be fighting when you drop into Salty Springs, so having an easily defendable location that has good loot is going to be awesome for you. Don't worry, I'll get it done in 20 minutes. Game 9, dead. Game 10, dead. Game 11, also dead. Game 12, super dead. Game 13 actually didn't go too bad. Let's talk about it. I had kind of a sloppy drop in here to the crack house. The loot wasn't great and all I had was a green pump, but sometimes that's all you need. I stumbled on down to Fatal Fields and found a lonely Rust Lord that hadn't been killed yet. I began to cackle in laughter when I saw noobs make the same mistake I made 10 games ago. It felt like I was playing much better, and with this southern circle, I might have a chance at winning. Fatal Fields had a pretty uncontrolled noob population. I did him a favor and got rid of most of them. And in the end, my first ever victory was right inside Salty Springs. Game 14, we cowered in a farmhouse and get shotgunned in the back of the head. Game 15, I found out what happens when you don't have a shotgun. Oh hey, look at that, wouldn't you know, another shotgun death. Game 17 was the first time I dropped onto the Spire, which is just north of Salty Springs, and I sort of counted inside of Salty Springs even though it's just outside of town. Basically, to the north there's a large mountain, and this is the only other structure near Salty Springs that can generate 3 chests, but it's pretty hard to jump onto it and move around. You gotta be sure to jump up on top. If you don't, you might get yourself in one of these situations where someone has the high ground and you don't have any way of countering him. Thankfully, in this situation, the dummy dropped down below me and I was able to easily take him down. In game 48, I dropped on the Spire because I saw this sniper rifle, which almost allowed me to get some kills if I wasn't so trash with it. But I also found a chest that contained a rocket launcher, so I was pretty stacked going into Salty. I ran in and tore up a bunch of dudes with my rocket launcher. I was gonna leave Salty with pretty good loot. By the time I left Salty, I was packing some serious heat, and I was feeling fairly cocky that I was gonna win this one. But at the end of the day, I didn't build up as much as I should have, even though I had plenty of resources to do so. Fortnite comes down to a lot of building skill at the end of the day. Sure, it's important to shoot straight, but if you can build over your opponent, that means a ton. It's important not to forget about building in combat, and if you do, it might look like this. Game 18, I cleared out Salty Springs and left with 4 kills and a ton of loot, some of the best loot I had had from Salty Springs yet. By the end, I amassed 7 kills, but was still outbuilt by a John Wick and died. I think by now you should start to see a pattern here. How about game 19, the very next game? I'm sitting here with a Porta-Fort, rockets, a gold scar, and all the ammo I could ever want, and I end up dropping off my Porta-Fort to go and kill this guy with the rocket launcher, but I can't even do that, I'm the worst! Game 20, I should have used the pump shotgun that was conveniently chilling in my inventory. I don't know why I tried to assault rifle this guy. 21 dead, 22 dead. Game 23, I took an incredibly long pee break and was just fine. I still died though. 24, no gun. Haha! Game 25 was quite the bloody match. This shows you just how bad Salty can get if there's a bunch of people dropping in and the circle isn't around. I did a good job of staying alive and I had some pretty decent loot, but sometimes you just can't kill everybody. Game 26, I had to drop in the small house here, and this is a pretty good house if it's your last option, because according to my data, it gives 1 chest about 85% of the time. So even if you have to drop at this small house, you're likely going to get at least 1 chest. I'm just now realizing that I'm trash at this game. Oh, golly gee willikers, ain't it great to get shot in the back of the head when you're in 3rd place? I think my biggest problem early on is I just kept losing my spaghetti. I'd get in a fight and I wouldn't really know what to do. I mean, obviously I knew that I should build and do all of these things, but in the heat of the moment, it's kind of hard to think about. And I was able to overcome that eventually, and by the end of this series, you'll start to see that in my gameplay, but just keep in mind, that's why these games were terrible. I was just a wee baby when it came to war back then. When I first grinded to the champion rank in Halo 5, what was more important than me developing my shot in the game was me just knowing how to stay calm. Staying calm in the heat of battle is definitely one of the best skills you need to work on in order to win a game of Fortnite. If you can't stay calm and know what to do when the pressure's on, you're never gonna win. And it's something that I had to learn throughout these 100 games in Salty Springs. Oh, and get a good gun just for your own sake. Game 35 was another textbook Salty Springs victory. Went in, killed everyone, looted everything. I was nearing the end game and got an incredibly lucky shotgun kill on a guy that just wasn't paying attention, and I had some really good loot now. Oh, and this is why I love the scoped AR. 3 guys left, and I'm going for the sloppy but effective shotgun kill on this guy. Now here I want some rockets because I'm out. And right here, if you notice, I run past some. I then get attacked from behind by the only other guy that's in the match right now. Now if I had the rockets, this would be pretty easy. All I'd have to do is build up. But because I don't have rockets, I have to put my scoped AR against his Scar, and with my low health, I lost. These rockets will haunt me for the rest of my life. Too soon, oh god, the humanity. Game 40, I was trying to get my trap elimination for the battle pass, and it didn't work out that well for me. And we're not even going to talk about Game 41. Game 42, I left Salty with the best loot yet, but poor planning got me killed. Game 43 was the first game where I brought in someone other than myself. I played some duos with Dark Hero. We still dropped Salty, we just did it in duos. And I gotta say, in duos, Salty Springs as a drop works pretty well, because you're still gonna be near the center, you're still gonna get that first circle most of the time, and if you're good, you can get a lot of good loot. As a team, me and Dark Hero both had pretty awesome loot by the time we were leaving Salty Springs, and in this situation, the circle wasn't even on us. Because we were able to slay so well inside of Salty Springs, we left with awesome loot, and it gave us a really good chance to win. Our downfall was the fact that we weren't inside the circle to begin with, one of the few times that Salty Springs wasn't inside the circle. While pushing through into the next circles, we got sandwiched between 2 teams. By game 47, I was back to dropping solo. By now, my building skills were increasing, and I got a couple nice kills in this game. Salty was pretty hot, and while I didn't come out unscathed, I did have some very good loot, which allowed me to keep killing people. I even found a rocket launcher, which sometimes alone can seal your victory. But in the end, still, panicking and not building when I should have is what killed me. I already showed you game 48, stop being so greedy. I have no idea how this guy lived. Game 50 got really heavy. I think whoever was going to win this entire scrap was going to have a good chance of winning the entire game. Unfortunately, I was not the person that won. Unfortunately, the first part of Game 51 is cut out, but I dropped at the shack. The shack's on the west side of Salty Springs and generally doesn't have anything other than a single weapon. I only dropped here because it was kind of late. I was probably distracted with taking all this data in the first place. I made it to the final part of the game even with the trash loot. Unfortunately, in the end, it just came down to me not building up again. This guy killed me even though I hit him for like 1 billion damage. Apparently, we're missing game 53. For game 54, I was playing with Delive Terraria. We were actually doing pretty good until lag got us. For game 59, I dropped in the 50v50 mode. I gotta say, 50v50 was a pretty awesome game mode. Game 60 was the first game where I had the John Wick skin. And I gotta say, I felt the euphoria. 61, 62, 63. We won game 64 and I won an awesome emote. The footage for game 65 is classified. 66, 67, 68, 69. Actually, game 69 cuts out unexpectedly, I don't know why. But according to my catalog, I came in 11th place, which ain't bad. Game 70 started off pretty good with a nice shotgun kill on this John Wick, but at the end I lost because I ran out of materials and couldn't keep building. I died by a crossbow. I'm trash. Game 73, I dropped into the sniper tower, which I really don't recommend. Only one chest can spawn here, and it doesn't every game. Though if you happen to have a sniper, make sure to hit a nasty shot. And despite losing, I'm feeling much more confident in my building by this point. Game 74, I got a fairly decent revolver kill and a nice little quick snipe on this guy. I was sandwiched between 2 players all the way up in Tomato Town. It was a pretty far north circle, which means I had to do a lot of running. I guess the one thing Salty doesn't teach you is how to fight on the go, because most of the time you don't have to run very far when you're dropping in Salty. Though even with that, the only reason I think this guy pushed me in the first place is because he has a rocket launcher, so for him this is a pretty easy kill. Game 75, I died while screaming. Game 77, we got that crack house hole kill. Remember I talked about it earlier? Super important, that's why I showed it again. You know what though, I did say I could do it in 20 minutes and we're coming up on it pretty close. Game 79 taught me that the LMG is the coolest gun in the game, bar none. Remember the lock-on rocket launcher? Now I do.
Was it your controller stick? Is it worn?
Keep going.
Is it worn out a little bit?
Yeah?
Is
Might need
it
replacing.
3 months too old? Because you got it 3 months ago.
Yeah, it could be that. That's probably what it is. The Spire had 3 chests, it was incredible. But then I quickly died like an idiot. Rockets! Shotguns! Other shotguns! Oh, how did I end up in Tilted Towers? 2 John Wicks in the basement with submachine guns. This is the first time I died in the storm. Games 91 through 95 were played with Sir Sputnik.
Straight out of Israel, my boy Luke the physically disabled.
And the final games 96 through 100, were actually played on my fiance's account. You see, she's a busy teacher, and unlike her degenerate life partner, she can't spend all day playing video games. So on the last day of the battle pass, I grinded her account to get her the one item she wanted most. This, gentlemen, is what you must do for love. In game 100, I wanted to show what I was made of and also take all of the information I learned from dropping Salty Springs 100 times and put it to good use. I dropped into the crack house, which contained 2 chests and some decent loot. I nabbed a couple of easy kills while moving towards the circle, and by the time I got there weren't many left. Though ultimately what led to my downfall was me just not keeping my head down. At the end of the day, what you need to remember about Salty Springs is that if you're going to drop there, be ready for a fight. But if you can come out of that fight victorious, then you have a good chance of winning. And I bet it'll be very interesting to look at the changes that Salty Springs may see with the addition of Dusty Divot. But for that, we'll have to wait and see. Thank you all for watching. Please, stay notable. And I'll see you in the next one. The next portion of this video is for Audible Club members only. If you are caught watching this video without being a member of the Audible Club, you will be punished severely. With Season 4 currently underway, there are subtle changes to the map that you need to know when you're dropping into Salty Springs. Dusty Divot is the new location to the north. It's right where Dusty Depot used to be after it was smashed with a meteor. This new location, at least for right now, is increasing traffic to Salty Springs. So when you're dropping Salty Springs, you of course always want to be ready for a fight, but with Dusty Divot, that fight might just get a little bit harder. There are also some changes to Salty Springs itself. During the video, I didn't mention this blue house all that much because it's not a great house compared to the other houses in Salty Springs like the crack house. But now, in addition to the crack house, the blue house can spawn a total of 3 chests. This is due to a Season 4 update that has placed a new bunker underneath the blue house. If you go straight under the stairs and keep going, you'll come to this bunker where you can get more chests, ammo, and weapons. It's also very easy to hold down with clever trap placement. I was able to kill these 2 guys in a squad when I dropped solo. These changes will ultimately make Salty Springs a place that will have better loot, but also more fighting. So you should only drop here if you're ready to die. Thanks for watching the video, Fortnite fans. I hope you enjoyed it. And for real this time, stay notable. I'll see you in the next one.